So we're halfway through October, and typically Q4 is always a very, very bullish part of the crypto cycle. I mean, you look at prior markets and prior years, October and November typically the best performing months for crypto and really in markets in general, leading up to Christmas. Now, with that, obviously we had the crazy event just a few days ago, but we've largely rebounded from that. And I think there's still a lot of optimism for the rest of the year as we move forward. Now, in today's video, we're gonna look at 3 specific altcoins that have a ton of potential. And I mean this not just because there's a lot of potential in the altcoin, but these have monumental events happening that will change these cryptos forever. And in my opinion, in majority of people, these are very, very bullish things for these projects. And I want to make sure that you are able to front run these events and be able to capture the opportunity of them. That said, we're going to dive into all 3 in today's video. There will be chapters outlined below if you want to skip between these 3 projects. Hopefully you enjoy this video. If you do, smash up the like. If you enjoy content like this, consider subscribing. Without further ado, let's into the video. When it comes to crypto and AI, those 2 things haven't really been very synergistic. And I mean in that sense that AI on the Web 2 side, if you think about it, right, has been extremely phenomenal. There have been a ton of tremendous things that have been done. But really on the crypto side, when you think about Web 3, it's kind of been lackluster. It's kind of almost been very second tier. It's been very beta, if you will, to the more prominent AIs. And one of the reasons for that is when it comes to money, and you look at the amounts of money that's given to companies and the amount of money that public companies have, private companies like OpenAI have, billions upon billions of dollars from investments to really push them ahead of the game. But that said, AI within the crypto and the Web3 space has been growing tremendously, and decentralized AI has always been a huge, huge focus for crypto, and it has grown tremendously in 2025 alone. And I think it's slowly starting to catch up. And one of the reasons it will, at least in my opinion, do extremely well is based off of one specific project called Bittensor. Now, we've talked about Bittensor when I had my other channel, and I've talked about it on X as well. I've been talking about Bittensor since 2024, early 2024, so over a year and a half. This is a project that I've been a huge believer in and been very, very bullish on. Now, starting off this week, AI has the largest mind share significantly compared to DeFi, compared to RWA, larger than stablecoins, larger than memes, larger than the wallets. It has over 36% of the current mind share, led by Bittensor and ERC-8004. I think part of this is also due to what we've talked about with other projects that are in the AI space. COAI, ticker symbol COAI, did tremendously well. The token went up in like a 10x in just a couple of days. We talked about it on the channel. But either way, AI, very, very big. Now, here's the thing, very basic understanding of Bittensor. We're not going to dive into it in today's video, but I want to more specifically talk about the big moments that everyone's paying attention to that could potentially drive the price up and what's been driving the price up recently. So Bittensor is a decentralized platform that combines blockchain and artificial intelligence. Think of it as like a big old melting pot. It is a big old cauldron, and within that cauldron, AI essentially goes into, and Bittensor is the cauldron. It holds all of that information. So it combines blockchain and AI. Think of it as a network where people and computers work together to build and share AI models, like global marketplace for machine learning. So AI models, AI machine learning, all of it kind of essentially goes into Bittensor, and you can build on top of it. So in essence, Bittensor is like a global decentralized AI lab where people are paid to contribute to smarter shared AI systems. It is designed to make AI development faster, fairer, and more collaborative. So essentially, it is kind of like a big old mesh pool. And on top of what you have Bittensor is you have subnets. Now, you have to essentially stake in Tau, the native token, to be able to create a subnet, which at one point was millions of dollars. It's currently, I think, around 700,000. Still a very expensive cost. And when you take a look at Tau, over the last couple of days, it's been doing really, really well. It's up 38%. Even with this more recent market correction that we had, It went from 389, it dropped to 257. Not a crazy drop, and since then has recovered and surpassed where it was before this massive drop. If you look at it over the past month, it has really just started to trend upwards. And there is a good reason for this. And mind you, it's still not at its all-time high back in 2024 at $700. So there's a ton of potential. I highly recommend that you check it out. Check out the website, do some more due diligence. But here's the bullish thesis and the bullish case for Bittensor. Here is the thing that you need to know about it. So there is a halvening happening for Tau. So Tau technically is a proof of work aspect. The emissions are going to be cut in half, meaning Tau enters circulation and less can be sold. Now, mind you, this is very bullish. So when it comes to the idea of the first halvening, this isn't the second, third, fourth, fifth. This is the very first halvening for Tau. A lot of people very bullish. A lot of people also nervous as to what does that mean for the reward mechanism, right? So when it comes to the biggest things for how a lot of people see it is the aspect of the leading subnets fundamentals are improving with buybacks starting to drive real revenue into tokens, and then pub products like Yuma's asset management for subnets, Grayscale's Tau Trust filing, and the launch of more Bittensor DATs will make subnet exposure more accessible to institutions and retail. So this is a really great thread about what this is going to look like, the shock that this is going to have. But I think this is very bullish. This is a very first halvening that you're going to see for the likes of Tau. Now, outside of this, you also had Tau Synergies announced $11 million private placement supported by existing stockholders and new investor DCG, which is interesting. So there's a publicly traded company that goes and acquires more Tau. You have this for the likes of Hyperliquid, for example. You have this for other companies as well. Bitmine does that for Ethereum. So there is a clear focus. Now, the biggest aspect is the change of DCG. Now, DCG is an investor in some of the highest returns as far as crypto assets in crypto history. They were an early investor to Flow, an investor to Coinbase in 2015, 100x return from their investment, early investor into Ripple, early investor into Circle, early investor to Grayscale. They were investor to Kraken. They were investor to Ledger, investor to Zcash. You look at some of the returns of some of their portfolio, it has been insane. It has been insane. So to see them come on board as an investor, new investor to the likes of this, I think is very bullish, and that's why we're also starting to see a ton of momentum. Now, the other thing behind this, and you'll realize this the more you dive into the ecosystem of Bittensor, is Tau is, according to James Altucher, Tau is now an all AI token. It's not a currency, it is an entrepreneurship token. Tau allows good ideas to mate with good incentives to create amazing products. Every startup should use it, because essentially you can start up your AI company on Tau as a subnet and have access to that AI data. So it is very valuable. And so essentially allowing new companies to onboard, grow their own companies and projects directly through a decentralized ecosystem. So very valuable for the likes of Bittensor. Highly recommend you keep it on your radar. Now, moving on to project number 2, Zcash. Now, we've talked about Zcash before, but I think the unique thing behind the likes of Zcash is Zcash also has a halvening coming in just 36 days. So you have Tau having its very first halvening, Zcash is having its second halvening. Now, in this instance, this individual talking about the fact that Zcash is having in 36 days and went from $40 to 308x. Now, to compare this to Tau doing an 8x, I think is a disservice to Zcash and to why it really ran up. There's a few reasons as to why Zcash ran up, and I think the halvening is obviously a specific portion of it, but I don't think it tells the whole story. You also have to compare the aspect of the market cap size, right? When you compare the market cap of something like Zcash at a $5 billion valuation, you have the Bittensor fully diluted valuation at 2 times that. So to say that this is going to go and be worth, at this point, it's pretty much $10 billion, right? It's going to be worth $80 billion. I think is a bit of a stretch. But I can understand where his sentiment is and at least this idea. But Zcash specifically has had a tremendous past 30 days. Zcash, obviously very much in the privacy crypto sector. Privacy crypto has been trending very, very hot recently, partly due to the likes of Mert, Helios Dev, talking about this specifically as far as the appeal behind privacy. We've also seen privacy cryptos. I did a whole video on the top 3 privacy cryptos that have been gaining a lot of traction and have been trending. Umbra recently did like 200x oversubscribed their privacy transaction platform on Solana. So privacy is a huge, huge aspect. I think Zcash, if you're looking at it right now, somewhat cooled down from this massive, massive pump. There's a level of consolidation happening here between $200 and $250. But I think this is possibly going to be primed to break out, especially as we get closer to that happening itself. You have other people out there like Ansem talking about it, and other people that are looking at this and saying, is there more than just 40 to 200, 40 to 250, 40 to 300? Is there even more? So, obviously Bitcoin maxis, maxis are good for certain things, bad for others. But in this instance, Bitcoin maxis, typically don't like anything except Bitcoin. And Zcash obviously gaining this momentum as a huge competitor likes of Bitcoin is not something very, very appealing. But this individual, Thor Torrens, talking about the fact that Zcash hasn't even hit 1,000. Imagine how much this can grow higher. Grayscale also giving exposure to Zcash now. And I posted about this, back when Zcash was at $195, and it went all the way to 300 after this post. So obviously there's a lot of momentum. We've seen this level of resistance hit. And past that, it's going to be $377. And at that point, it's just going to be simply price discovery. So something to at least keep on your radar, something to pay attention to. Zcash post, there's going to be a lot of momentum leading up to the halving itself, 36 days away. Be mindful, maybe mark that date in your calendar so you can keep track of that. Same thing for Bittensor. These are calendar specific big, big days for these projects. So be mindful of that. Now, the last project I want to talk about is what I would consider a microcap. Now, this one I think is very interesting because microcaps typically run when the bigger caps do, right? So for example, when Zcash ran, you saw a ton of momentum. That's why I posted about Dash, not technically privacy coin, but has privacy aspects. And other privacy cryptos did double-digit returns in a very, very short period of time. So with that said, Neptune Cash is a very small, up-and-coming crypto project that I think has potential. And that's what I want to really preface this part about Neptune Cash, is it has potential. Is it $100 million? No. Is it at $1 billion? No. This is what I would consider a micro cap. This is a very, very small project, but there's a lot of really cool things I like about it. And what it reminds me of is when I was early to the likes of Caspa. Now, mind you, this was me purchasing Caspa at 0.4 of a penny, September 11th. Not to mention, this is in 2022. I had been mining Caspa with my GPUs in I think it was July of 2022, when Ethereum moved to proof of stake from proof of work. So mind you, I had been involved in Caspa very, very early on, mining with GPUs. It wasn't worth much at that time, but then Caspa does 100x, and obviously that value grew. Now, I think in the very, very native sense, the very early sense, very, very similar vibes that at least I get from Neptune Cash. Is it going to be the next Caspa? Absolutely not. Does it have some potential? I think it does, and it's worth exploring and checking it out. There's some more details on what this looks like. This is the website. Very, very, very basic. It is still in its building stage, so be mindful of that. This is not by any means a project that's raised $100 million in capital, but this is one that's building that I think has some interesting components. So here's a brief outline of what they're doing, and then I want to kind of show you a decent kind of graph to compare this to the likes of what you see with Monero and Zcash to kind of show you what makes this kind of stand out. So Neptune Cash, layer 1 blockchain designed as a peer-to-peer anonymous digital cash system. when you look at the three core pillars: privacy, scalability, and post-quantum security. Quantum security is going to be a trend that continues to grow. You're going to see a lot of projects very much key in on them being quantum proof. Something to keep an eye on moving forward. But a lot of really interesting things. The project is still under development with its reference implementation available on GitHub. So the biggest key features is the proof of work. It is GPU mineable and post-quantum security. Tokenomics, 42 million, cap supply, halving every 3 years. And there was a pre-mine of about 1.98%, slightly less than that. So pre-mine, maybe not the most exciting thing in the world, but very, very small pre-mine and initial development and ecosystem bootstrapping. Not the worst thing in the world. Like I said, block halving every 3 years. And so, I think there's a lot of really interesting components to this. I think a lot of opportunity. A lot of projects, a lot of proof of work projects started off GPU mineable. Some of them really CPU mineable, then GPU mineable, and then you moved on to ASICs post that. But, this is a really, really great market cap comparison, overall chart comparison by Yorichi, who put this together. I'll leave this also down in the comments so you can check it out. I don't want to deep dive into all of this, but there's a really, really cool things about Neptune Cash, especially when you look at if Zcash is going to pump. Look at some of the smaller altcoins that are in the same industry that typically do a lot bigger numbers just because their market caps are significantly smaller. Just be mindful of that. It's still early in development. There's no guarantees this project's going to be around for a long time, but it is one to definitely at least research, come to your own conclusion, and see what kind of opportunities exist. But I wanted to leave this one in here because it's been growing. It's been getting a lot of attention. When you look at the performance, it's up almost 100% in the last 7 days. So it's done really, really well for itself. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are the 3 altcoins you're keeping an eye on moving into Q4 of 2025? Love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, smash up the like. You enjoy content like this, consider subscribing. Until next time, guys, stay invested.